Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about what options we have for sealing the trunk on our Can-Am Outlanders, as well as the airbox. For any of you that ride any sort of water and own an Outlander, you're probably in the same boat as I am with the last three machines that I've had, is that the seal around the trunk box does a better job of keeping water in than out. And that's actually one thing that the dealer told me when I picked up these machines, was not to put anything of any sort of value or that needs to stay dry in these trunks because they just don't seal well. So I've been looking for some different options over the last little while, and one of the main companies that keeps popping up when I look is OMC branded gaskets for both the trunk and airbox. And I really did want to buy a set of those, but it was just a little bit cost prohibitive for me being in Canada. The shipping cost and with the exchange was just sort of getting a little more than I wanted to spend. And I came across a company here in Canada just recently at the Toronto Powersports show called Afraid Knots. Afraid Knot Ropes is the name of the company. And I'll post a link to the company in the description. But they make a made in Canada version of the gasket, very, very similar to the OMC branded one, but made in Canada, available here in Canada at a much more affordable price as well. When I was speaking with Ian at the booth there, the owner of the company, he was telling me the benefits of this particular gasket over the OMC branded one. And it made a lot of sense, what he was telling me, and I'm sure if you have those kind of questions, reach out to Ian and he can help you out with any questions you have. But this is a very thick, nice gasket to put on the trunk. It should hopefully help seal a lot better than the crappy Can-Am one that we have on there now. And similarly, they have the airbox gasket as well. So instead of just the foam that doesn't do anything as far as keeping water out, this should hopefully really help waterproof that airbox cover as well. So I'm going to get into putting these on. I'm going to show you a little bit of the installation. It's going to be super simple, and hopefully we'll find out tomorrow when we go riding how these hold up. All right, so installation here for the trunk should be super simple. One of the problems I think with this rear Can-Am seal is that you have this seam at the bottom here, and for me, this is on my 1000 XMR. You can see there's probably about a 2mm gap there in the seal. And I mean, that's going to obviously let water in. I'm not sure if water's getting in other parts of the seal as well. But one thing for anyone new to Can-Am, when you do close these trunks, a lot of people I see just give it a close like that and assume it's closed. When the handle is still in the up position, it's not closed. It's not sealed yet. Even though it's not going to open on you, it's not sealed. You really have to give it a push, and then you'll see that handle flip down. So that's the best sort of seal you're going to get on these Can-Ams. So make sure you do that even if you do have the factory seal. Okay, so we'll get in now to taking this out. This should just peel right out. And you can see all the dirt and sand that's in there. And then I'll give that a good cleanup and put the new one on. I think that looks pretty good. You can see the difference in the thickness between the two, holding them that way. Hopefully you can see that on camera. The factory one has these ridges that are already molded into the gasket, and I'm not sure if that has some bearing on how much these leak if the trunk lip doesn't fall into one of these ridges perfectly. Whereas on the new one, there are no ridges on it. So the trunk lip is going to make its own seal around this, and that should hopefully keep it nice and watertight. Now putting the new gasket in, there's no right or wrong way that this needs to go. There's no front or back to it. But what I did notice is there is a seam where obviously the ends join together. So just my personal preference, I'm going to put that in the bottom at the middle. There's obviously no cracks in it or anything like the factory one was, but just the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to put that in the bottom at the middle and just work it in from there. Just placing it in nice and snug all the way around. And that's about as easy as it gets, guys. That was a really nice fit. So you can actually tell, like, this is sticking out, I would say a couple millimeters from the edge of the trunk there. So it's actually sticking out further than the stock one was. You can sort of see, hopefully you can see on the video, the little lip there. But this is a nice pliable material. So I'm going to just wipe the trunk out a little bit just so that I don't throw all this sand back in. And then I'll show you how snug it closes. All right, so that's all cleaned up. So let's close it now. Yeah, it's definitely much more snug now. I had to give it a real push before that handle flipped down, but hopefully that's a good thing. And I imagine once the edge of the trunk sort of molds itself into the seal there, then that'll get a little bit easier to close. But I'd rather it be a little snug than be filling up with water like it has been. So I'm just going to give it a minute or so like that, and then I'll come back and open it up and just sort of see how that seal looks. All right, so that's been about a minute or so now. I'm going to pop it open, and we're going to see. There you go. So now you can see all along that seal. Hopefully you can see it on this camera, but you can see where the edge of the trunk has sort of made its impression into that seal. So that you can see it's making a good seal all the way around. Like I said, we're going to be trying this out tomorrow. I'm going to be going on a ride, so I'm going to try and get into some water, and I'll pop this open on the trail and show you guys exactly how it looks. So for now, that's it for the trunk. We're just going to move on to the air box. All right, guys, so we're up at the air box now. This one should be just as simple. We're just going to pop off the cover to our filter there. And that's that foam seal that we're talking about we're going to replace. It's not even a seal. I mean, it's barely going to keep dust out. It's for sure not going to keep any water out or anything from there. So we're just going to rip this off. This is stuck on there with an adhesive. So I'll just peel that sort of as carefully as possible to not leave pieces of it behind. But it seems to be coming off pretty easily. Yeah, so that's just stuck on there with a double-sided adhesive. And now that I have that off, I'll show you the difference here. So obviously very spongy foam. You can crush that to nothing versus the thicker gasket here that's going to conform much better. And I mean, I'm squeezing that, but you can tell it's still pretty thick. So what I may have to do, what I have seen with the OMC one with guys putting it on, is it's such a tight fit that you'll actually need a socket to put it back on because it's not able to be done by hand. So I'll see that in a minute once I get this on here. We'll throw that off to the side, and I'll just grab a cloth just to wipe this up a little bit. Just get the edge nice and clean. Now the one thing that Ian from Afraid Not Ropes did tell me was theirs is thicker in width, so it's wider than the OMC one. And the reason they did that was because they were finding with the OMC one that when you would tighten it on over time, it actually started to get sucked in a little bit from the edges, and then it would leak. So theirs is actually a little bit thicker from what I was told. So you can actually see it actually sticks out a little bit past the edge of the airbox cover there. And hopefully that should give a nice good seal. So we're just going to line these up, and when you do line it up, there's an arrow pointing. If you still have the yellow paint on it, line it up with the yellow paint, but that arrow is going to go at the unlock spot there. And we'll try and get this on. And that is a really tight fit, so I'm going to grab a socket and we'll be right back. Okay guys, so it is no joke getting this airbox cover on with this gasket in place. It is super tight. I did have to use an 18mm socket. I was messing around with it for a few minutes off camera there just while I was trying to get it locked on. It is on there right now, arrows lined up with the lock, and you can see that seal bulging out the edges a little bit, so it's really giving a good seal, and it is rock solid on there. Like, I can't push or compress this any more than it already is. It's rock solid. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pop it off just so you can see how tight it was to get on there. So that's how easy it is to get it off. So when you do have to access your filter, it's not a big deal with a wrench. You may actually be able to twist it off by hand. I didn't try that, but putting it on, definitely not by hand. So I'll show you that. But you gotta really compress it. Just make sure it's seated properly there. And really compress it while using your ratchet. And there you go, you can sort of feel it fall into place there on the detent. And that's on there really solid. So we won't, like I said, tomorrow we're gonna go for a ride. I don't anticipate getting into water deep enough that I'm gonna test out the airbox cover, but hopefully we'll get into something deep enough to test out the trunk. And then I'll post a video from out on the trail there. I'll pop the trunk open and we'll see if it's managed to keep the water out. So stay tuned for that. All right, guys, so we're out on the trail now. We've just been riding for about an hour or so. We've gone through quite a bit of water. So as you can see on the back here, there's quite a bit of water in and around the trunk there. So I'm just gonna pop it open and we're gonna see how the seal held up. And there you go, everything looks pretty dry inside. You can see there's not really any water, a little bit of water down here, but that's on the bottom of the seal, not on the box side. So I'd say that's held up pretty well. There you go. Hey guys, so I'm back at the house. I just finished hosing off the bike here. It's pouring right now, so I just gave it a quick hose off just to get the majority off. And what I thought I would do just for one last water test on this trunk seal is to hit it with the hose for a minute or so and then open it up and see what happens. So right now I've dried it out completely, so there's no water in here at all. I'm just gonna set up the camera, throw the hose on it, and then we'll see how it holds up. All right, so let's let that drip off for a second and then we'll see how it looks. So I've just backed it into the garage here. I'm just gonna give it as much of a wipe down as I can just to try and avoid any water from dripping off the box and stuff like that inside it once I open it up. All right, so I think that's pretty good. Pop the camera off here. And we'll take a look and see what it looks like. That is, so like I said, there's the one drip because up in this handle area here is still full of water. I don't know if you can see that, but my finger is floating in water. So as soon as you open that, some water drips in past the seal. So there's a couple drips right here. But aside from that, all the way around the entire box, aside from that middle section, which put a few drops right there, it's bone dry all the way around. And inside the lid here, you can see as well, is spotless and dry. So I'm really happy with that. All right, guys, so just to wrap up the video, I am very impressed with this trunk seal. It managed to keep everything inside dry. Not a drop of water got in. The only drop that you did see in there was what I showed on video. As I opened the trunk, that handle area let a drop in, but that's no fault of the seal, and I have no doubt that if I was to go through any sort of deep water and fully submerge the trunk, that everything inside would remain dry. The one other nice thing I did notice as well, now that it's been on there for a couple days and I've had the trunk closed, is that the seal has sort of molded around the trunk and it's no longer requiring a lot of force to close it like it did that first day when I installed it. So now it closes still tighter than factory, but much easier to close than it did the first day. So I don't have any affiliation with this company with Afraid Not Ropes, but I did reach out to Ian to see if he was interested in offering a discount code to anybody that may want to purchase one. And he did reply back with a coupon code, so you can use code JOR10 for 10% off anything he has site-wide. He's got lots of different ropes and recovery gear, shackles and seals and stuff like that. So if you're interested in anything, head on over there. I'll leave the link in the description and I'll put the code up on the screen. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you found it helpful, and we'll see you on the next one.